to actually capture anything. Make sure the microphone is working there. That was not a good sign. It is Monday. It is another very steamy day coming our direction over the course of the next several days, so it would be nice to have some cool downs of some sort or another, but that does not appear to be happening anytime soon. It'd be nice, but just not going to be coming our direction out there. I am Chief Meteorologist Austen Onek from WDEF News 12 in downtown Chattanooga, Tennessee. We cover the areas of southeast Tennessee. We're between Nashville and Atlanta. We're between Birmingham, Alabama, and Knoxville, Tennessee, in that general area. Northeast Alabama, northwest Georgia, western North Carolina is where we cover. And again, that is where our primary viewing area is. So this is a show that if you have never tuned in here before, if you want to ask questions about the weather, we'll do what we can to answer them if at all possible. I realize that if you're watching on Twitch, there's a lot of other really neat, cool, hip, and trendy things going on, from sewing to cooking to different video games. We're not that jazzy here. We would not seeing anything really wrong with that, but again, we don't have quite as much pizzazz as a lot of other shows will have, unfortunately, for right now. We're more of a quieter type of talking about what's going on with the weather. If that's too boring for you, thanks for stopping by, and nice to have you around. We'll keep an eye on the Twitch feed to see if anybody's asking any questions. And again, if you have questions, please say hello, say where you're from. If you're in this area of the country, please say hello. We're also on the News 12 YouTube page. Again, that's WDEF-TV News 12 from downtown Chattanooga, Tennessee. And we'd love to hear more about where you're from. And again, if you have any questions about anything, please drop them in. We're going to continue on this for the next about 15 minutes or so. Any way possible to get more information here about what's going on. Stay tuned, because we'll be talking a lot about some different things, especially and including what's going on into this weekend. It's an upcoming event called Field Day. If you've never heard of it before or want to know more about amateur radio and how you can get involved, especially if you live in the News 12 viewing area, stay tuned. We'll talk about that and a local amateur radio club inviting people to go to Field Day and learn more about what it's all about, the hobby, the day itself. More on that in just a little bit. The big weather story is, again, partially the heat. This is what we are seeing at this time, to where we could be looking at the potential for some more problems out there in the next several days. It does not look to be dangerous. And when I say that, there's no sign of any heat index numbers. That's the temperature with the humidity to get the feels like index. There's no sign of anything going above 105 degrees, and that is usually the level where the National Weather Service starts issuing heat advisories. We have no advisories in effect at this time. It's going to be very warm. Working outdoors is going to be very uncomfortable if you don't take breaks, keep an eye on each other. We'll talk more about that coming up here in just a little bit. Time is just past 10 o'clock, so let's go ahead and show you what's going on with the temperatures for right now. 70s and 80s for the most part. Not seeing any 90s left over. Temperatures are dropping off a little bit, but as we go into tonight, I would very much not expect anything in the way of cool conditions. Lower to mid 70s is as low as the temperatures are going to get. And if this is as low as you get, you start off here about dawn patrol and head upwards. We'll be in the 80s, I would think, by 10, 11 o'clock Eastern time, easily enough. And again, going into the rest of the day tomorrow, expecting the possibility of more heat out there. We're seeing a lot more of that heat over the entire eastern seaboard, thanks to a blocking area of high pressure and a large dome of heat just sitting in place over the eastern U.S. There's not that much that is going to be changing anytime soon. We're hoping to catch the Chinese space station here. Lots of clouds off to the west, not enough to blanket out the entire sky. As a matter of fact, we did manage to get some pretty good sunset. Hopefully we'll get a time lapse for you here coming up in just a bit. Island Cove from Lake Chickamauga, not looking too bad. The western skies on the Lee Point Plainview outdoor advertising camera. Downtown Chattanooga from the EPB Fiber Optics WeatherCam Network. looking at Lookout Mountain and off toward Raccoon Mountain in the distance. And again, no sign of Chinese space station Tiangong-1 for tonight. Unfortunately, it'd be nice, but we didn't get a chance to see that for tonight. It was probably a timing issue or a little bit too much in the way of cloud cover. Hard to see the lights of Signal Mountain off in the distance. It's very moist out there, and I really hate using that word, but it fits very well. And as of right now, there's hardly anything in the way of good visibility because of that amount of moisture hanging in the air, pollutants and whatnot also filtering down to the lower portion of the atmosphere. That from the Tomahawk crane and rigging camera. I hope the ice cream safari went well this weekend at the Chattanooga Zoo. Looking off to the northwest, all of these cameras are available on our website on the EPB Fiber Optics WeatherCam network. If you'd like to see them, go to wdef.com/weather to see what's going on in and around Chattanooga. Last stop for now, Speedy's Total Car Care camera. Coolidge Park at the lower portion of your screen, the Tennessee River flowing through under the bridges, downtown Chattanooga off to the left, and temperatures at the top of the hour, mid-80s at the Chattanooga airport, and those humidity values are definitely going upward. So we'll continue to see some more activity in the way of heat through the next couple of days. Radar at the top of the hour. There are some speckles of showers right about around the windward side of the Appalachians. It's not that much, but we will continue to see. I think there's a possibility of seeing a shower or a thunderstorm at some point in time, just about any point in time over the next few days. We've got tons of moisture onshore. The worst potential is all the way back, or I should say the best potential, if anything worse, back toward Middle Tennessee, northwestern Alabama. Scattered showers and thunderstorms, mainly paralleling the Alabama-Mississippi state line, going up to the north, passing the area back around the Mid-South and heading across I-40 between Jackson and Nashville. That right there is where the bulk of the activity is going to be. But some of this activity here in Georgia, southeast Tennessee, and western parts of North Carolina could be seeing a few minor echoes shaping up. Not that much, but it will be possible to see a few showers. And that, again, should be the worst of what we're looking at. Now, into tonight, we've got the potential of, again, fairly quiet conditions, but notice the wind arrows on here, the moving arrows on screen coming in from the south and the east. That is due to a combination of things. We had an area of low pressure down to our south. We've got a very strong area of high pressure off the east coast, and that is helping to move a ton of moisture, tropical moisture-laden air from the Atlantic, the Caribbean, the Bahamas, and off the Gulf up into this area of the country. Now, not much is happening here, but there is enough to get, again, some clouds, some showers, some thunderstorms taking place, mainly back to our west. That moisture-rich air is going all the way up into the high plains and the front range of the Rockies. So with a couple of decent storm systems, I would not be surprised to see some thunderstorms possible well back off to around the front range, the lee of the Rockies. That is where we could be seeing a problem there. But these storm systems, thanks to the flow going that direction, it's a good possibility we're not going to get any storm systems heading our way anytime soon, which means our chances of rain and thunderstorms are basically toast at this point. Again, with the moisture around here and the heat of the day, yeah, a thunderstorm or a shower possible, and some of those might get strong enough for borderline severe, but I think most of what we're looking at right now is going to be the potential of just a shower or thunderstorm, and that's about it. Tuesday morning, lows in the high 60s to lower 70s, high 80s to lower 90s for Tuesday afternoon. More chances of showers and thunderstorms west, north, and east of us. Those pop-up showers and thunderstorms possible. Wednesday afternoon, if we get enough cloud cover to block out the sunshine, we probably won't see too much in the way of problems from heat. It is possible that we could see a little bit more activity, but I really don't think it's going to be all that much at this time. Now, going into the end of the week, things start to change a little bit. Temperatures remain very muggy and not cool on Thursday morning. High temperatures in the lower to mid 90s for Thursday. Friday morning, lows in the high 60s to lower 70s, and again, that far downwards not that far downwards. It is going to be bouncing back up very quickly after that. And then into Friday afternoon, easily back in the lower to mid 90s, more sunshine coming into the picture. And that is where we could be looking for, again, some decent problems where we see more temperatures out there. And as an added bonus, it looks even hotter into this weekend. Now, the good news is that as of right now, all the heat advisories are either way to our west in the desert southwest or way to our north. And that is where the concentrated portion of the heat dome is going to be focused from Maine back to Missouri. The orange are heat advisories. The brown brick red color is an excessive heat watch and excessive heat warnings back up around Detroit, Toledo, and northwestern Ohio, northeastern Alabama. Those are excessive heat warnings, meaning that hot, dangerously hot weather is going to be imminent in that area very, very soon. So tomorrow looks to be the most steam heat going on, and that is where we could see the worst problems with the heat. We are going to see our own temperatures on the hot side. There's no question about that. But what we're also going to see into the next couple of days is the temperatures staying just above normal. Not bad. Where's the big problem? Well, the big problem is with the humidity here, to where we're going to see that temperature, humidity, feels like heat index. That is where we're going to be seeing some very uncomfortable conditions outside. Now, again, the National Weather Service doesn't issue heat advisories until you hit about 105 plus. We're not going to be coming close to that as we run out of spring and head into the first day of summer on Thursday. And then the weekend hits, and that's where temperatures really start to hop up into the mid to upper 90s. So the pool, good garden hose for a good soaking, something in the way of ice cream. I'd like to go to Clumpy's one of these days and see what they have to offer. That's going to be some very hot conditions into next week. That'll be the hottest of the hot here so far. Now, keep these numbers in mind because there will be a quiz of sorts here in just a minute. We'll be looking for a chance of showers and thunderstorms, a better than average chance of what we've been seeing for a while. Isolated pop-up stuff from tomorrow through about Saturday, and then Sunday we see the potential for maybe the potential of some thunderstorms, more concentrated variety. Doesn't look too good again for portions of the weekend, but indoors, if at all possible, with that heat and humidity, will be your best bet. Now, again, I said watch these numbers here and keep an eye on these, and notice that they are all technically in the mid to lower 90s. So what does that have to do with anything? Well, what does that have to do with the price of bagels? As my history professor back at KU used to say, what we're going to be looking for into the next couple of days is going to be, what did I do with it? Okay, well, it appears I got rid of it, so that's nice. Okay, so what I did have is lined up a bunch of record highs into next week, and I don't know what I did with it, but it's not, nope, that's not it. Apologies. Oh, here we go. Thought there was it. Okay, so what we're looking for this week, the record high today was 98, set last back in 1952. The rest of the week, you have to get to about today. Today was the coolest record high temperature of this week, 98. You have to get to the century mark or 99. And right now, that doesn't look to be happening this week. So I don't think we're going to see any record highs. But we are going to see some very stifling conditions coming up. So we could be looking at some big problems there. All right, into the tropics we go. We have got another storm system lined up over portions just around the Bahamas, right off the Leeward Islands, and just north of Puerto Rico and Hispaniola. This is nothing as of right now, but it could be something later on. And it is looking like it's making a beeline slowly, but making a beeline for the east coast of the United States. Georgia, the Carolinas, northeast Florida. I would watch that very carefully. We have down to the south of that. Let me go to the other graphic because that'll look a little bit better. Let's see. Please let this be the right one. Okay, well, this is the storm system we're looking at here. I'm going to have to go ahead and skip ahead for just a moment. What we're looking at here, very favorable development for this system. This area of low pressure you see in the Bay of Campeche, Not sure how to say that, but this is Investigation Area 91. Now, as of tonight, it is potential tropical cyclone number 1. So we actually have our new first storm system, organized storm system of the entire season. So it is it's honestly about time to see this. The National Hurricane Center showing again that area down to the Bay of Campeche, however you say that. Again, that is moving its way to the northwest. Winds are at about 40 miles per hour. So this does technically have the criteria for being named an actual tropical storm. Now, whether or not that happens, we don't know. There are warnings in effect for the Gulf of Mexico, the marine warnings in effect there. That is something that, again, we want to make certain that everybody is paying attention to because, and this is where it gets very interesting, in the next about 48 hours, this blob of red here, again, that's very favorable conditions for the development of these storms. And remember that the waters of the Gulf and the Bay here are exceptionally warm, like 90 degrees warm. That is way too warm for this time of the year. That's as hot as they should be in late August. So if this system goes over that very warm water, what is called RI, rapid intensification, could occur. And notice that we get a very good swirl of energy taking place here. I'm going to back up in just a second and talk about why that's important. Then we start to see what looks to be possible landfall by early Thursday. Possibility of being a hurricane, but a slim possibility at that. And then that system moves on shore to northeast Mexico. But then we have that other system in the Atlantic that starts moving into that very warm water of the Bahamas and right up the east coast with that loop current and the Gulf current. So if you're planning, and let me zoom out here for just a second and back this up for a moment, what we're going to be looking for here is this system. We've got the high pressure area way out to the east. That is pushing our moisture on shore here. It is also helping to escort. The winds are very good right now of pushing back to the west. So this system over the Atlantic, this one over the Bay of Campeche, this one is going to be driven westward. Both of these being driven westward by these winds. And here's the other thing. Excuse me. Remember that areas of low pressure in the Gulf of Mexico and in the northern hemisphere, for that matter, areas of low pressure, the wind rotates thanks to the Coriolis force rotating counterclockwise. This has the potential, this one again in the Bay of Campeche, has the possibility of moving tons of tropical moisture toward the Texas Gulf Coast. I would really say, based on everything that I've seen in the way of advisories from the experts in the National Hurricane Center, west of New Orleans, west and southwest of Houston. And remember, Houston had those problems with Hurricane Harvey a few years ago. The tons of water fell on that very flat area. The bayous of that area can only absorb so much water, transporting it on flat ground all the way out to the Gulf of Mexico. So it took forever to drain that water. We're looking at what doesn't seem to be a Harvey-type situation where the system just sits and wanders. But it does look like we're going to get some pretty good moisture coming in from off the Gulf, the loop current, the Bahamas, and that is where we could see some big problems. So what that means, in short, is that if you are planning on traveling, beach vacation between Houston and Brownsville, Corpus Christi, Galveston, anything along the Texas Gulf Coast, I would be very careful about heading that way, especially if this thing gets stronger quicker, because if you're going to be heading down that way to lie on the beach, you may have to turn right back around and head back out again. Likewise, this system moving toward the Carolinas, Georgia, and Florida, I would watch this system with a lot of interest to see what exactly is going to happen there. So we've got two of these systems, again, one going toward roughly the Rio Grande between Texas and Mexico, just south of there, but still able to shovel tons of moisture that direction. And then this system back over the Atlantic. This is going to be what could be a problem. Remember, the loop current and the Gulf Stream current here contains a lot of heat, and that is what those storms need. So this is where we're going to be seeing the potential problem there. We've been going on here pretty long. I'm going to go ahead and see if we can cut this a little bit short because it's 11 o'clock at night. My voice is already taking problems here for tonight. So let's go ahead and wrap things up with a few things. 93, the high temperature at the airport. That's the hottest we've been this year so far. 98 is the record, so we came within 5 degrees of a record high. 75, the low, way above our normal of 68. Goose eggs on rainfall, and we're now behind by 1 1/3 inches for the month and 1 2/3 inches, give or take, for the entire year. So a good soaking would help us out. We had some scheduling issues last week with our software, so we weren't able to feature this on Flag Day itself, but a beautiful view. Thank you very much, Carol Baldwin, Chattanooga, Tennessee. A nice view for Flag Day, Old Glory, and some patriotic flowers laid out in the yard there. Thank you very much for sending those along. Thanks to everybody for sending in some wonderful pictures. Did have a good Flag Day picture last week, but the gentleman who sent it in meant it for Memorial Day, but it still works. So if you got pictures, please send them in to us, pictures@wdef.com. You can go to our website, wdef.com/photos, or you can drop them to our social media pages with a description and or a location, please, so we don't have to guess and make things up. That would be very, very nice of you to do that. All right, our friend in roofing weather poll of the day. Talking about wildfires, going to be getting on to a lot more about heat. So what is the leading cause of wildfires in the United States? A lot of folks, the majority, said lightning, 48%. 10% said bears in campsites. 5% said heat waves. And 37%, including our own Kay Blevins, said humans. And that was the right answer. So 37% of you got that answer right. Humans are the leading cause of wildfires in the United States, whether it's unattended campfires, whether it is overheated generators, whether it's a cigarette butt tossed out someplace. Humans cause the worst problems with wildfires in the United States. Thank you very much to the Fish and Game Bureau and the United States Wildfire Interagency Wildfire Center for information about the wildfires. Really glad to have them on the case. Nice to be able to see more about that. So thank you very much to them for getting that information there. I think that is about going to do it for tonight. We got one more thing before I go too far. Field Day, if you've never heard of this before, it's the day of days, the day of the year for amateur radio operators. It's a contest that happens between all other amateur radio operators in the world to contact as many other clubs and personnel using Morse code, using voice, using digital. All that is available. And if you'd like to know more, American Radio Relay League, go to this website and you'll be able to find out where the field day locations, the clubs will be setting up. You might see a bunch of tents, a bunch of generators, a bunch of trailers, a bunch of big antenna sitting up somewhere where they are not usually. This goes on overnight, starting Saturday afternoon and goes through Sunday afternoon. Again, it's a big contest. There are big points to be scored for this, a lot of bragging rights going on. So if you'd like to know more about Field Day, find out more about amateur radio as a hobby by going here. Now, on that note, locally, the Cleveland Amateur Radio Club would like to invite you, if you live in and around Cleveland or anywhere around the area, they would like to invite you to an open house so that you can learn and ask questions from the experienced operators and find out more about how to get into the hobby, how to get your kids into the hobby. What does it cost? What license do you have to have? What does a license do for you, and how long does it last? All that type stuff is going to be answered in this seminar. And that's coming up this Saturday, noon to 1 p.m. in Cleveland, Tennessee. If you'd like to attend, they would ask that you please RSVP because there will be a small luncheon held afterwards. And they want to get a good head count. So if you'd like to know more, all you have to do is RSVP to Cleveland Amateur Radio Club. The information is on their website at carc.cc in Amateur Radio International Phonetic Alphabet speak. That's Charlie Alpha Romeo Charlie decimal Charlie Charlie. So again, that's another good idea to know about when it comes to emergency communications. These folks are not just tweakers and geeks. They are people who care about the community and want to help out. The practice, the idea of field day is to get practiced in case a disaster happens, in case they have to be operating from somewhere out in the field. Do they have enough food? Do they have enough protection from the elements? Do they have enough gasoline for the generators? Do they have solar power working? Do they have enough people to work in shifts? That's what field day is all about. The contest is kind of secondary because getting set up for this type of thing is what amateur radio operators do. During the dark hours of September 11th, 2001, when the towers came crashing down and the emergency towers on top of the World Trade Center were destroyed, the amateur radio operators of the tri-state area stepped in and worked to forward 911 calls. That's the type of thing they do every single day all around the world. They can get messages into disaster areas and out, short messages into and out of disaster areas where these things may not work. And that's what I have to say to the people who say, oh, it's an antique hobby, we don't need amateur radio, why would we ever join anything like that? Because someday this may not work, and you may need to get information out to someone or from someone to you, and that is why it is important to remember that when all else fails, amateur radio works. It's not just a silly catchphrase. It really, really means something to a lot of people. I'm an amateur radio operator. Yes, I enjoy talking this stuff up, and I really enjoy passing along stuff like this from the Cleveland Amateur Radio Club so that you can be better informed about what's going on. And if you want to get involved with this, I believe the test from the FCC is about $15. You don't need to know Morse code. That's not a consideration anymore. That's not a requirement, I should say. You do have to know about safety. You have to know about a little bit about antennas. You have to know a little bit about frequency, power, mathematics. It's not Albert Einstein type stuff. It's making certain to keep you safe. There are procedures and there are laws you need to know. There are fun games you can play like fox hunts when you get directional antennas. There are public service opportunities. When I was back in Memphis, we did the tornado sirens inspections. We did until the city of Memphis and the mayor decided to pull the plug on the program on us, which was not a nice thing, and he was technically not a nice guy. But we help out with a whole bunch of things, and this is one way you can do that. With a great hobby to learn more. There are scholarships for younger kids who get their license. I can't tell you a lot about them. I know my daughter was going to get her license and apply for one, but she just didn't have the time. So great opportunity, again, to learn a lot more about some cool things available to you. So please consider dropping by this. If you are in this area, drop by. If you are not in this area, go to this website, Field Day from the American Radio Relay League, and it'll show on a map. Enter your zip code, enter your address. It'll show more about who is setting up where and where you can find that information. It's a really great opportunity, and I hope that knowing about this, you can take advantage of that. All right, so for tonight, that should go ahead and wrap things up. Got to get done here because we'll be on the air in about 20 minutes. It's almost 11 o'clock, hard to believe. But you can watch Weather Overtime not only online and on our social media pages when I post them there. You can also watch on our weather app. All you have to do is scroll to the Weather Overtime section, and all you have to do is go and... My animation is having issues here. Okay, quit it. You're being a pain. There we go. All you have to do is go to that section of the weather app. Go to your app store, whatever you have for whatever phone, search WDEF Weather and download the weather app, and you can get Weather Overtime wherever you happen to be. Great opportunity there. All right, hopefully everybody stays cool in the next several days because it is going to be roasty out there, dangerous if you push yourself too hard, so please don't do that. Please take care of yourself. Please keep an eye on those working or exercising around you. I know that several state governments have decreed that a lot of places should not allow work breaks during hot weather. That is, personally speaking, one of the most short-sighted rules of legalism that I have ever heard of in my entire life. As was the point that was made on the Weather Channel was, it's a good bet that high school football players will get better breaks than a lot of people out and about working in the fields or on the highways or whatever you're doing in the hot weather. You do need to take breaks. And if you are working with other people, you need to watch them. They need to watch you if you start showing signs of heat injuries. Matter of fact, we'll talk about that coming up tomorrow night on Weather Overtime to make certain that everybody is paying attention to that because it can sneak up on you. So that's something to really take a look at. All right, that's it and that's all. We've been on for a half an hour. I'm Chief Meteorologist Austen Onek, live and direct from News 12 in downtown Chattanooga, Tennessee, with the latest edition, Monday, June 17th, of Weather Overtime, our online video weather blog. We'll have more with Chip Chapman on Tuesday morning starting at 5 a.m. Eastern Time, and I'll be back tomorrow afternoon and evening with a full slate of more weather programming. Thanks for joining us. Stay tuned for more with News 12 at 11, and again on air and online with News 12.